Hurrah! The Muncaster Bed Hanging is back in stock. We have 5 or 6 ready to send out to you, and we're going to show you here where Harriet has shot a very nice video and showing you how to set up this piece so you can work it yourself at home. We're extremely grateful to Harriet, who recreated this fabulous piece, which has been studied by me for the last about 35 years and recreated in Memphis, in fact. And then Harriet brought it back, handcuffed to a suitcase. She was hilarious, but she worked incredibly hard on this piece and it's been appreciated and enjoyed by many of you. But if you would like to see how you would make it yourself, we're going to show you here where Harriet has shot a very nice video and showing you how to set up this piece so you can work it yourself at home.
My name is Harriet, and I test kits for Phillipa Turnbull with the Crewel Work Company. And the most recent kit I tested was the Muncaster Bed Hanging, which required a really big frame in order to stitch such a huge piece of crewel work. And she's been getting questions about how to load a slate frame that large, and I want to tell you how I do it. There are plenty of different ways to do it, but this way works really well for me. I'm going to show you on a smaller slate frame. The process is exactly the same, and then once I've shown you the beginning part on this smaller one, we'll go to my bigger one, which is already loaded with a big project to stitch. The first thing you do is measure the twill tape that's stapled to the bottom and top of your slate frame. The way you measure a slate frame is the twill tape. So this is an 18-inch slate frame. So I've marked the center, and I've marked the center of the piece of crewel work. So you match up the center pieces and pin it. And even when it's a large piece like the Muncaster Bed Hanging or the Glasgow bedspread, the process is exactly the same. So I've got it pinned from center to the right, and then I go center to the left. And then I have a needle threaded, and I like to use just normal thread, but a lot of people use quilting thread or buttonhole thread, a double strand, and you start at the center, and you do stitches that are they're kind of random, and they're about a quarter of an inch apart. And I like to use a different color thread so that I can see where my stitches are. Okay, and you do that all the way across, and then come back and do center all the way across. Once you've stitched the twill tape at the bottom to the piece of linen that you're going to be stitching, what you want to do is begin to roll it. And with a big, huge piece like the Muncaster Bed Hanging or the Glasgow bedspread, what I did was I did the stitching on my dining room table where I could spread out the whole frame and the linen and could keep it on top of something that was clean. So you're going to roll the bottom one up. With the Glasgow bedspread or the Muncaster piece, it's going to roll quite a lot, but what you want to do is get so that you've got enough of the linen rolled on so that you have probably 18 inches of linen that you're going to be using for your stitch area. Once you've done that, you can come around and do exactly the same process that we did on the bottom to stitch the top of the linen to the twill tape on the stretcher bar. So once you've done that, we'll pretend we have, you roll that down. So this one, I could stitch the whole thing because those stretcher bar arms are long enough, but because we're pretending we're doing a giant piece, we'll just roll it up. Then you want to have the holes for your top and bottom bar running parallel to the surface that your bars are on, and then you slide the stretcher bars in. And you match whichever way. This one has the lower hole, cribbage hole down, so I want to match that on the other side so the holes are roughly the same distance. Then you're going to put one cotter pin or split pin in, and I put this one in at 5, so I'll put this one in at 5, and then we'll try 3. I think that's going to be better. So 3. And then in order to stretch it, what you do is you hold the frame on the floor like that and take your next cotter pins, and I usually put my foot down and slip in the cotter pin. And then on the other side, you match it. So this one should be about here. Okay, so that's how you load the top and bottom and the side rails. Now we're going to switch to the big piece that I've loaded in already. And these two books, this one by the Royal School of Needlework is really good, and this one, the A to Z of Crewel embroidery, is really good, and they both have step-by-step instructions on how to load a slate frame. Either one of those would be helpful. Okay, so once you have your piece of linen in your frame, attached at the top and attached at the bottom, you have to string the sides. In order to do that, you take a piece of twill tape and you make it about the same length as the space that's exposed and cut it. Then I use embroidery thread, and can you get a look at that? I use embroidery thread to do herringbone stitch to attach the twill tape to the piece of linen twill. Once you've done that, then you take twine or even pearl cotton and you thread it around the bar and then through the twill tape and all the way around at about an inch space all the way down, and it wants to be pretty tight. This one is drum tight, so I don't need to fool with it, but as you can see, there is some room to tighten this. I loaded this frame 2 days ago, and it's still kind of getting used to how tight it needs to be. So before I start stitching, I will probably tighten this up. When you want to tie it, the way I do it is down here I make a slip knot and put it over the end of the cribbage bar, and at the top you can just wind it around a couple of times, and then what I do is tie a bow, because that way I know I can undo it when I need to tighten the sides. The way to decide how much linen you want to have loaded into your frame really depends on your reach. If you put your arm down on the top of the frame at about with your elbow hanging off, that's how far you can comfortably stitch. So having too much above here or anything above my hand, I have to either stitch upside down or reload my frame. And I like to load, when I load my frame, I load it so I'm starting at the top left and working my way down. Phillipa always says to start at the fruit end, and the top left always seems to me as good a place as any to start. When you get to a point where you have stitched this whole top piece and you need to unroll, what I do is cut off the herringbone stitch and on both sides pull off the cording on the sides, and then I take it back into my dining room and remove the cotter pins and pull out the side pieces, and then roll up what I've stitched and try to keep it about the same width so that you're not having to reach too far up underneath it. For me, a good distance is probably about 15 inches, I think. So once you've rolled up what you've stitched and you've exposed a new area, then you bring it back onto your trestles and recut the twill tape, re-herringbone stitch it, and do the cord around the side bars just like you did at the beginning. I have these great trestles from IKEA, which are terrific, and I've put a towel on top to make sure that nothing rubs my frame. I do know people who do it the other way, where they have it's basically the frame flipped over so that they're stitching into the frame, not on top of it. This always feels more comfortable to me. Good luck and enjoy your stitching. There are a couple things I forgot to mention when I was talking about loading a big slate frame. And one of them is that after I put my linen into the large slate frame, I mist it very lightly with a spray bottle of just plain water. And that kind of removes any creases or wrinkles or anything like that that are in the frame, particularly when you move it and the linen has maybe bubbled from being pressed up against some very thick stitching. So if you just hit it lightly with the spray bottle of water, that makes everything smooth, kind of like when you're blocking. The other thing is where I got my slate frame from. I had a terrific experience with a woman named Harriet Roberts, who runs Ecclesiastical Sewing. You can find it on the website. And she is very familiar with these large slate frames and custom makes them and ships them worldwide. So I have one here in Memphis. A friend of mine has one in the Netherlands. I think Phillipa has one too. So she really does ship worldwide, and they're terrific. The other thing is that if you're perplexed about how to load a slate frame, there are some really good YouTube videos to watch. I watched a couple that gave me some confidence before I did mine. And then also, if you're concerned about stitches, like how to get started with the herringbone stitch when you attach the twill to the side of your linen, Mary Corbett has a lot of fabulous videos on how to do stitching. So I hope that's very helpful. And the toenails you hear clicking around are my two dogs, Pixie and Haggis, who have to be at the center of absolutely everything. Good luck.
Thank you, Harriet, for that fabulously helpful video, and also for recreating this fantastic piece from Muncaster Castle. And if you would like to know more about this wonderful project, then just visit our website, crewel.com.